Imagine not knowing how to swim whatsoever, and your first experience with learning the skill was being thrown into the middle of the ocean. I love this analogy that Gven provided because with getting into the DeFi space, with getting into crypto, with learning anything in that regard, it can be a lot. There can be a lot of fear. There can be information overload. There can be skepticism. There can really just be not knowing where to start, what to do. There's a guru here. There's a course there. There's information here. There's news there. You never really know what to do, what to believe, and how to really go about it. Well, what they are doing at ARC is amazing just because, one, they are trying to combat the narrative completely. For those who don't know, obviously the big players, the banks, those high up, they want to continue to stay in control. They want to continue to make sure that everything is regulated and it goes by their terms. However, there's a lot to be prepared for. There's a way to get ahead of the curve, and there's a way to ensure that you come out on top time and time again. So don't just take it from me, take it from Gven, because these poly tricksters, as he calls them, and I love that term, are definitely not on your side. But I'll let him do all the talk and I'll let him do all the explaining, and hopefully you do the tapping in. So without further ado, enjoy episode 183, The Wealth Transformation. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner. Look, I need y'all to grab something to write with. I need y'all to give me your undivided attention. I need y'all to learn with me in a sense, because I'm very excited to be sitting down with Gven today. One, just because he's going to touch on some things that I've really been worrying about myself. Not really worrying about, but wondering about myself. Some things that I've read, some things that I've seen, other information that's kind of been put on me that, I kind of did my own due diligence of trying to find out. But nonetheless, I think that he's going to clear some things up for me today, but also be able to tell us what he does, how he can be able to resource and even learn. Like I said, I'm big on education, so I'm thinking that he's definitely going to clear some things up on my end. So, Gven, before we get into all things, how are you today? How's everything on your end?
I'm great, man. Can't complain. Just going from one meeting to another. Mondays are always a busy day.
Mondays are for sure a busy day. And I love that even through all that busyness, you found some time to get down to business with us. So I definitely do appreciate you for that. So now, to bring everybody up to speed, because I know we're going to have some people tapping in from your side. I know we're going to have some people on my side, and then we're going to have some newcomers along the way who probably know nothing about either one of us. So can you, one, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then can you, two, just tell us what brings you on the Down to Business podcast today?
Yeah, so I own a company called ARC Educational, and we actually teach cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance. And so DeFi, as we call it, essentially is the way to become the bank, the institutions, and make that bank money by, cutting out the middleman and dealing with people peer to peer, so you could earn the fees that the banks do, right? You earn the fees for lending money out to people, and that's all governed by what are called smart contracts on the blockchain. And so it's really fun. We've been doing this since DeFi started in the summer of 2020, and have built a very successful educational business on teaching people how to use these valuable tools so that you can, kind of get away from the traditional banks, which are failing us horribly, not just from the aspect of inflationary purposes, but from the aspect of literally, there's so many regional banks that have failed or on the brink of failing soon. And so, we're kind of feeling this from both ends of that aspect. And a lot of people are starting to move over to DeFi because they're like, wait a second, I can actually make the money that I'm depositing in my bank account, because so many people don't realize that when they deposit money into their bank account, the bank is literally using your money to lend it to you or to your neighbor or whoever, right? And so these are the things that we teach. And like I said, it's a very new technology. It hasn't always been the easiest, but we're getting better and better at it every day. And we're bringing on more and more students, and even people who, didn't even know how to use a laptop are starting to use this technology to really better their lives.
Whew, okay. That was loaded, but I like it because you spoke a lot of truth in that, and I feel like you broke a lot of things down more simply. But I also feel like you threw some things at me, at us, that I want to break down a little bit. So DeFi, while I was very familiar with the term just because of my involvement with trading, foreign exchange, currencies, everything of the sort, I would say there are some people, and even myself, I would say, whereas I knew what it stood for, knew what the purpose of it was, I didn't necessarily understand it or really get the gist of how this was able to really start. So for someone coming across this interview for the first time, just heard you use the word DeFi, just heard you use it then in its real form of decentralized finance. And then they go a step further to say that, well, this just started back in 2020, as you spoke to. So one, how? Like, how did this all of a sudden, for something that's been, like you said, failing us for years on years on years, for a system that was not really built in place for the users, but more so for the banks and the big dogs and the big names, how did this all of a sudden come to play as to now how we can benefit from our own money, from our own deposits, own withdrawals, everything like that?
Yeah. So think of it like this again, like so many people, when they got into crypto, they treated it as like a stock. A lot of people don't even know the difference between a stock and a crypto or currency or Forex. And so but to me, there's a big difference. And so what does DeFi stand for? It stands for decentralized finance. So meaning when I hold custody of my money, the bank doesn't touch it. No third party touches it. What touches it is me. I'm the only person who has access to it. And I know that we're on a podcast, but I'm holding in front of me a ledger, right? Which is what's called a hard wallet. Well, my money is custodied in this wallet. And so a lot of people don't realize that you can literally custody your own money. Now, what happens with that? Well, so many banks are on the brink of failure right now. In fact, there's like in the United States alone, there's like 700 and some banks that were in the same position as the big three that fell earlier this year: SVB, Silvergate, First Republic, that are in the same position. But the Fed basically has said, like, look, stop doing these bank runs because, we'll back it all up, right? We'll back it all up with the FDIC. But typically, the FDIC will only back you up to $250,000. And so that's what's kind of holding it in right now. But these banks are darn near insolvent, okay? And I can explain that later. So I want the money in my custody. I don't want it in the bank's custody. And you can take it to some other bank or take it to Chase, which is basically now a federal bank, right? Wells Fargo is now a federal bank, but now I can keep that money in my custody, like the way our grandparents and great-grandparents used to do. They used to stick some money under their mattress, right? And that was their way of saving it. Well, now we can hold it on the blockchain. Okay, we can hold it on the blockchain. And what does that enable us to do? Well, let's say, for instance, okay, every time the bank gets your money, they can literally loan up to 97% of your deposits. All right. And what do they loan it? What do they use that money for? Well, they use that money to loan it in the form of a car loan. They use that money to loan it in the form of a mortgage, in the form of a credit card, and they make all sorts of fees and all sorts of interest rates on that. Okay. Now, with the blockchain, not only do I get to hold the money in my custody, but I can now do certain functions just like a bank. And instead of the bank making the fees, loaning it to you, Tamar, I loan it to you and I make the fee, and it substantially cuts down the cost of it for you as the end user. And so like right now, as an example, I can get my Bitcoin and on the blockchain, not in a centralized like crypto bank, all right? Like some of these failed crypto exchanges, but on the blockchain using something called a smart contract, I can lend my Bitcoin, or I can put my Bitcoin up as collateral. And let's say I profited, let's say 100%, and I put in $10,000. Well, that gives me a profit of $10,000, right? But what if I want to take some of that profit out without having to pay taxes? So let's say I may borrow $2,000 against there. I just took a little bit of profit and I didn't pay tax. But the person that I borrowed against, they put up what are called stable coins. And stable coins are cryptocurrencies that are backed 1-to-1 by the United States dollar. So they do not go up or down outside of the dollar. It's always $1 for one stable coin. So now I can go borrow $2,000 against my Bitcoin, transfer it over to my Visa card that accepts crypto, and I can start spending it within seconds. And all along, I didn't pay a single thing in tax. But for me borrowing that money again from you, that USDC, let's say you're the one who put that USDC, which is that stable coin, Tamar. Well, now you're going to earn 3, 4, 5% interest on that, and I have to pay it to you. All right. And that's how DeFi works. It's peer to peer as opposed to bank to peer, or bank to consumer, I should say.
And I see how this could already be advantageous to the peer, just because, you know, when the banks are in control of the regulation, they can hike these things. They'll have these fees and everything like that. Like you said, because as soon as we deposit, it's already being used. It's already kind of being circulated amongst a network or everything like that. Wow, that's kind of, when you break it down like that, wow, that's so cool. And I'm all about cutting out the middleman. So that really sounds good. And that really sounds like that's something that's up my alley. So I guess the further question I kind of want to go to is, all right, this started back in 2020. Now, did you have to be in a certain type of position in order to get into DeFi? Was this only targeted at a certain industry of people or individuals? Was this kind of something that was like made to the public that anybody can kind of do it? Because I guess I kind of, as you kind of explain this and as you kind of get into the details of it, I could see how this could take a lot of business or a lot of money and even a lot of just advantage away from the bank. So I could imagine that this is not something that they would just want out there on Front Street. But I also know that with technology, with things that kind of happen and come about, it can just be dramatized, it can be publicized, it can be everything like that. So if we're looking back to 2020 now, what did it really take to get into DeFi? Could any person really just do this as long as you really just knew the process between the Bitcoin, the blockchains, and the stable coins? If you knew all of that and came together, you could just kind of do this on your own?
Yeah, absolutely. And so like, that's the beauty about this. And this is why it's so inclusive, because anybody in the world could get into it. So like, let's say for instance, using that same analogy of, lending that money. Let's say you got a guy in whatever, Nigeria, is a country that's actually using crypto a lot more frequently these days. They don't have a lot of money over there. And so if I'm a Nigerian national and I want to deposit, just $3 and lend that $3, I can start earning interest on that like that, which not every Nigerian in the world has access to a bank, right? So this is a way basically for people who don't have access to banks or who want to keep money in their custody because they don't trust governments, they don't trust banks, to actually put that money to work. And it's any amount of money. You can have the guy in India. You can have the person in anywhere in Central or South America, the guy or gal, put your money in here and start earning, the percentage that I'm telling you are the really small ones. But, I'm earning anywhere between 30 and 100% per year in my cryptos. And that could be 1,000%. And that's no Ponzi scheme. That's no, this, that, and the other. This is real cash flowing business being the bank on the blockchain. The only thing you do need to have is you got to get educated on it. And that's what me and my company do. We teach people how to do that. And we've taught people from all over the world, all age categories, all genders, everything. Okay. And we've really, really excelled at getting people set up in DeFi so that they can take advantage of this boom. Because I'm telling you right now, Tamar, this is going to be the biggest transformation of wealth that we've ever seen in our entire lifetimes. And it's coming.
The biggest. I like that. Okay. Well, let's really get into that now, because I think I feel like when you say that, there may be some people out there that may kind of be on the fence about that, may kind of want to play devil's advocate, may think a little bit different. So with with so much news around cryptocurrency, from we're seeing a lot of the big companies or big names were kind of getting shut down. People were under investigation. People were getting sued. People were disappearing. There were certain places that stopped backing the dollar and everything like that. With everything that's kind of circulating, everything that's going on within the world of cryptocurrency, how can you confidently say that this is going to be something that is going to be huge? It's going to be something where if you're not a player in the game now, you may want to be a player in the game. Why essentially should people have their eyes on this change as it's happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about all those companies that went down. First of all, those are centralized companies that went down. Celsius, FTX, BlockFi, Voyager. Those were all banks dealing with cryptocurrencies, essentially. All right. And they had custody of your money. See, I can do all my trading on chain, fully decentralized. So, like for me, an FTX will never happen to me because I am dealing with everything on the blockchain and I can clearly see every single transaction on the blockchain. So, when you hear these, politicians, I call them polytricksters. When I hear these polytricksters going, this is used for nefarious use, this is used by, con men and scammers and all this stuff. Every industry has scammers. Every industry has Ponzi schemes. All right. Unfortunately. But here's the thing. The cool thing about the blockchain is it is irrefutable and fully transparent, meaning I can get on in real time and see every single transaction that everybody's doing on their wallets, right? And so there's no lying on the blockchain. And so those centralized entities, again, like Celsius, FTX, BlockFi, Voyager, once the crypto's in their wallets, they can hide and do whatever they want behind the cloak and veil. But once that crypto hits the market again, well, they can't lie. They can't create Ponzi schemes. All right. You can actually go on and see what is real and what is not. And I think that's what people are so horrified because, you do have the traditional finance, or TradFi as I referred to it, right? TradFi, where let's say, for instance, you have Nancy Pelosi, okay, who's a decamillionaire, if not 100 millionaire, all right? And how did she get there making $187,000 a year? There's just living in Washington, D.C., of all places, and California. There is no way that she got there by legitimately trading so eloquently, right? But what's happening is with the traditional finance, you can hide a lot of that stuff. And in fact, every single time Nancy Pelosi makes a trade or any other polytrickster makes a trade, they have up to 45 to 60 days to report what they did. Where in crypto, I can get on the blockchain and see what Nancy traded in real time, right now, right? And so that's the difference. But you have to understand, Tamar, the difference between decentralized finance and centralized finance. And just because you're in crypto doesn't mean you're in decentralized finance. You may have your money in Coinbase or in Binance, and your money is in centralized finance still. You're still susceptible that if Binance or Coinbase goes down, you could lose all your money. And so what we teach is we really break people out of the matrix and help them become their own custodians, help them become their own bank.
It's so crazy that you mentioned Coinbase too, because I remember back in like my Forex days where I would do that and where it was such an unfamiliar like concept to me as to how like I'm sending something the exact amount, but when it gets there, it's not that it could I could check it an hour later. It could be higher. It could be lower. It could be, like you said, sometimes a lot of that times because it was centralized, it was getting affected by whatever was happening in the market with that particular company, everything of the sort. And so sometimes it could be on your side and it would add a little bit extra to that deposit or to that withdrawal, or other times it could be like, oh, wow, I may have to send it. I may have to initiate another one or do all and go through the fees, go through all of that again, just to be able to transfer from time to time. Okay, but when you break down decentralized versus centralized like that, it makes a lot more sense, and I feel like it's so many more variables that you just have to worry about, because one, while it's your money, it's being used. It's also about what this company is doing. If they're on the up and up, if they're doing things the way that they should be, if behind closed doors, like you said, they're hiding behind that cloak and maybe moving some things around that they shouldn't be. So the way that you ended that last answer of yours, I love, just because, it's about now ARC coming into business and changing the narrative and changing the scope around that, about how accessible this can be. But you have to become educated on it. But you have to know what you're doing. But you have to know where to start. But you have to know how to kind of regulate things. So thinking back to when this all really got its start, when the foundation was being set and people were starting to get into this little by little, what stage were you in your journey that you wanted to come into business to be able to educate others as to what was going on? Why did it become a point for you where you wanted to come into business with surrounding this? Because, a concept like this, I could think about many reasons as to why you would want to gatekeep it. I could also think about many reasons as to why you would want to bring it out to other people and help them just the same. So at your point in your journey, what really initiated the want to brand yourself behind this and to want to spread this knowledge to others?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started my educational business in January of 2018, and I got into crypto just 6 short months before that. And what I found was, I got in basically right in the middle of the bull market. And I was able to turn like 40 grand into 250 grand in just like 4 to 5 short months. All right. And when I saw that, I have a saying with my students, like, I came for the gains, but then I stayed for the revolution, because I started to see, man, I hate banks. I literally am like the anti-bank guy. Banks are just, they're so primitive. They're just so self-serving. They really don't care about one thing except for their bottom lines. And if they did care, they would obviously share the profits with the people who are actually depositing their money. Now there's, I forget what these banks, credit unions or something, where sometimes they'll pay a sliver, a shilling back to their people, but really it's nothing. All right. It's nothing. And the people that are making the most money are the ones that are at the top of the real bank Ponzi scheme. And so when I saw the power of cryptocurrency, just the decentralization of it, because I was holding a lot of my crypto on my wallets back then, not in exchanges, because I've never trusted exchanges. I said, man, there's just a need for people to learn even from the security side. And these security things we still teach till nowadays. And that is, making sure that you have the right VPN in place, making sure you know how to store your keys, which are like your passwords to your cryptocurrencies, and making sure that you know how to set up the right antivirus, okay, to keep out bad actors from your computer, and make sure you stay away from bad websites that may steal your money, steal your passwords, steal multiple different things, right? These are things that a lot of people that get into crypto don't understand until it's too late. And I've had so many students come to me with horror stories where they've had tens of thousands, if not sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen from right under their nose. And so we also teach them how to stay away from scams. All right. And let me say this. I've also been a victim of scams in crypto. If you've been in crypto for more than 5 or 6 years, like for real, or DeFi, you've gotten scammed. All right. I don't care who you are. And so, or you've taken a 100% loss, right? Like that's just crypto. But what's happening now is crypto's growing up, and so are we. So we've really come from this from a long-term perspective approach. And as opposed to going from, let's hit a grand slam every time. Now it's like, okay, let's hit a lot of singles and doubles and get people in, to have some RBIs. And that's really what happened. But that's really why we decided to teach people, because it's so important. Mass adoption is so important to this, because there are actors, bad actors within the governments that don't want to see this succeed. And why? Because they don't want to lose the control. Because if they lose the control, they lose the profits to us. And it's just dollars and cents. So I'm making it my life focus to teach people how to get out of that old matrix and into the new one that serves all of us, as opposed to the banksters and the polytricksters.
Poly tricksters. I like that one. I'm gonna have to adopt that one in my vocabulary. But no, you really make a great point just about how this could be something that when it broke ground, when people realized really what was going on, they were all hands on deck to figure out how do we keep this away from the people who need to know, the people who we've told them all this time that, we're your best investment, we're your best bet. This is the bottom line. Just come to us. And a lot of times too, I feel like I've talked about this on so many of my recent episodes. We have literally grown up in times where systems have clearly been problematic. Systems have clearly not been on our side, but time and time again, nobody really challenges that narrative. Nobody really tries to break the mold and really change the way and the trajectory of things. And I think oftentimes that's so important. Just because something is there doesn't make it right. And when so many people get affected by it negatively, really doesn't make it right. And when it keeps the same people at the top time and time again, that should raise some red flags, as you said. So, okay, so what I'm hearing is that ultimately you're building a great community around you. You've been able to educate people. You've had people kind of come along the way, because this is something that's always changing. Just the same. Technology is changing. Software is changing. Rules are changing. Companies are here one day, gone the next day. DeFi, things could adjust and adapt just the same. The blockchain adjusting and adapting to all of that. So when people are kind of finding out about ARC, when people are coming across you guys, whether it be the website, social media, whether it be a referral, anything of the sort, is there like a process to really get started with you? Do you need because I know I'll probably have some followers who are listening who wonder about how much does it take? Do I need a certain amount of money to really be able to do this? Am I going to be able to just hit the ground running? Do I need to do what research do I need to do beforehand? So could you just walk us through, let's just say, even I'll use an example right now. Like I have somebody on my Instagram live asking about that, but I know there are going to be some people tapping into this episode who are just like, yo, what Gven is saying, this sounds amazing. This sounds like I want to pull. I've always been against the banks and stuff myself, but just never really knew where to win. I can't keep stuffing money under the mattress. So how do we get started? Where do we start? What do we need to do?
Yeah. So you want to, first of all, again, try to find someone or a company that can educate you. I think that's, one of the reasons why we started, because, learning crypto otherwise is like, it would be like being dropped in the middle of the ocean and somebody go learn how to swim, right? It's not going to be very helpful. So you definitely have to start somewhere. And remember, there are a lot of scams in crypto, and you want to be able to identify those and definitely stay away from them. And they get more and more sophisticated every single day. But if they're interested in coming with us, and we do have competitors, it's a very small field of competitors right now because DeFi is still in its infancy, and not a lot of people, even crypto influencers, they know the word DeFi, but they don't understand how to use it. They're just speculating on coins. I don't speculate, I accumulate. And so we've got a full blown platform that leads you from A to Z on how to get into crypto. And that, I think, is the most important thing, because you have to start with the security. You have to start with the VPN. You have to start with all these things, because once you get in, there's bad actors out there, just like your bank, right? Looking to steal your money all day long. And once you get there, you have to learn how to, go from one blockchain to another. You have to learn how to set up liquidity pools so you can give people access to your money in a safe and sound way, so you don't lose it, right? So there's all these processes that you definitely have to go through. But I would just encourage finding a company or a person who really knows this stuff. And doing your due diligence on them to make sure they're not a scammer. And then, moving forward to learn and start small. This is a fallacy that a lot of people have, is when they get into crypto, they put it all on red, right? They think they're at the roulette table, And that's not the way you should do any investment, in my opinion. Not real estate, not stocks, not any investment, not options. What I would say is come in with $200-300 and play around with it, break some stuff, lose it, and learn that lesson, and then really start to add more and more throughout time, dollar cost average in, or bring money in like a systematic, periodic way, so that you're not just putting it all in at once. And if you lose, that's it. You're out of the game.
You can definitely never put your eggs all in one basket when it comes to any form of investment. So I'm with you, but I'm also a big advocate for what you said. Sometimes it takes playing around, breaking some things, losing some things to really, it makes you, in a sense, obviously, yes, nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to make a mistake or make an error, but that's when your comfort level starts to increase. That's when, because it's nothing like really coming in. You're still kind of walking on eggshells and you're doing good. You're just doing good. You're maybe even on a hot streak, maybe even doing better than what you thought of. And you start to kind of wonder in your head, is this beginner's luck? Do I really know what I'm doing? What's going on? But you also, with that, I feel like with doing good, you become a bit cautious in a sense. You just want to keep doing good. I'm going to do enough just to do good until, that confidence may build. You may say one day, all right, look, I've been winning. Let's put it on today. Let's double up. Let's put it all on red right now. Let's make it happen. And then things don't go your way. Two things happen. That confidence gets shot. You lose motivation a little bit. You get upset. You may just slam the laptop, close. You may be done for the day. You may take a break from it. But when you decide to come back, what happens? You become more comfortable now. I lost now. I know what I did wrong. One, I put too much of an investment too far. Okay, I got that. But two, I took an L. Okay, let's learn from it though. Take some notes. I remember when I was doing the Forex thing, we were encouraged to always have a notebook. And the notebook should have everything in it. What went well, what went wrong, what you didn't, what you learned, what you didn't learn. And a lot of times that was so good for me for evaluation, because a lot of my goods and a lot of what was happening, I didn't always know why it was going good or what was happening, or I trusted my analysis or whatever. And that was really that. But a lot of my bads, I felt the most confident about. And those were the ones that didn't go the way I wanted them to. So no, that losing that Gven is talking about, y'all, that, like he said, breaking things or just having to try some stuff out. It's a character builder all in the same lesson. It also teaches you about yourself. It teaches you how the system works. It teaches you that everything is not always going to go your way. Even some of the best people, as he said, 5-6 years. I know gurus in this quote unquote that have been victim to scams. That have, it sounded good because scams are getting so elaborate now. They're texting you from the iPhones. They're calling you. They're sounding like real people. They're playing these automated messages. They're emailing you. The emails look right. The links look right. And then all of a sudden you click one wrong button. Changes your whole trajectory, changes your whole world forever. So no, big advocate on that for sure. So now with what you do, with being that, I feel like crypto, I feel like investments, I feel like everything, this is so universal. What does it look like as far as your business and how you guys expand within the world? Is this something that is just right now local? Is this just domestic? Is this a service that you kind of offer to anybody, no matter where you are? Are there certain places that you kind of have to be wary of? Because I know with different, even when I was kind of in this industry in a certain aspect, there were certain laws and rules and things that sometimes were going on in other countries that we had to account for, or that would affect us, or that would affect that currency. So are there any things that you kind of have to take into account with this game and with this business, and kind of how you guys, where you guys are and where you guys choose to expand to?
Yeah, I mean, we've got people all over the world, and right now there's not, there's not basically a regulatory framework. This is, what the whole holdup has been with crypto and the SEC, which is just a joke. Our government, 3-letter government agencies really should just stay out of everything because they ruin everything, in my opinion. But I do think that, that right now there is no regulation. So you just, that's where you have to own, what you're getting into. You have to understand the risks that you're getting into. But again, that's where that education though is priceless, because having that mentor to really get you through that time, man, if I had a me, 5 years ago, holy crap, I would have been in heaven. Right. So I just think definitely find the right mentor. And we have, like I said, we have students from all over the world, all age categories, genders, colors, you name it, we've got it, you know? And so we've got, we have like 1,200 students. We have people in Asia. We have people in Russia. We have people in Ukraine. We have people, Europe, Saudi Arabia. I mean, literally, we have people everywhere. So it's just a matter of, again, this is a skill that I think universally can be applied. And for the time being, there is no regulation. So, but I do think regulation is probably coming down the line, but it doesn't neglect the fact that you should still be learning this stuff, because while you have regulation, doesn't mean you're going to stop doing it. You may not have access to this one or that one. But you'll definitely have access to some stuff that will be much better in terms of the quality of investments than the traditional finance, in my opinion. And that's where that generational wealth is going to flow to. It's going to flow to the ones who know these new skills on how to become the new banks.
When you put it like that, man, it almost sounds scary, but it sounds glorifying. You know, taking the power from only what we knew all of our lives. And it's not even to say that it was right or it was something that we wanted, but it's literally just all we knew. You know, you get old enough, you get that debit card. It's like you feel official. You get that plastic. You got that account, savings, checking, and you start getting the credit cards and everything like that. And before you know, you're invested into this 6-7 cards falling out the wallet, everything like that. It's so much to keep up with. And oftentimes, as much as we complain, we try to find those fee-free ATMs. We'll Google them. We'll try to do cash back. We'll try to Zelle it, Cash App. We'll try to do anything but not time and time again. Man, if we can even just think about all the fees. And it's funny to see that, because I have a credit union for a bank. And at the end of the month, they reimburse me for my ATM fees. And it's just crazy sometimes seeing like how I don't even realize it in the moment, just because I need the money. So whether it's $3.50, $5, $6, I'm going to click it. Like, I'm going to click accept. I'm going to complain about it. I'm going to get mad. I'm going to say, oh, this is why I don't do this. But time and time again, I'm going to do it again. So, but it's crazy now to hear that the narrative can change, that the trajectory can shift, that things can really come into our power. It's almost kind of scary to think about, because it's just like, wow, so you're telling me something I was doing for 15 plus, 20 plus, 30 plus years of my life can just change just like that, and I can be in control, and I can even benefit more from it, but I can continue to make money from this. And then on top of that, I can teach people too. Well, You haven't said anything that sounds bad to me, so where do I sign? Let's make this happen. Let's do it. But I also love the point that you make about regulation, about how, things sound good right now, and things are good right now. But regulation is not something that should scare you. It's just something that you should have on your radar. Regulation is in everything that we do. Laws are not the same anymore. Pandemic that we went through, new rules around just different things. Stuff are always changing. Things are always being voted on. As long as we have those poly tricksters, as you call them, out there, there's always going to be things that are being regulated or voted on or talked about, everything of the sort. But something that I'm also interested too is the future outlook. So we already kind of touched on the fact that you said it yourself. This is going to be one of the biggest transformations ever within this space. And the fact that people, if you're not on it now, not to say you're behind the 8 ball, but get on it, but learn something. It's because it's almost going to be like the AI conversation. It's going to be something where it may scare you. They may say some things or some terminology or some words that you never heard before, but ultimately it's inevitable. It's no avoiding it. So something that I think about too with this transformation, I also think about your company, and I think about how, you talked about starting education back in 2018. You talk about DeFi coming into place in 2020, and now we're in 2023, but we're rapidly moving. So what does the trajectory really look like for ARC, for what you can disclose? Like, obviously, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to step on any toes, but we're big here on just debuting things. And we're big on, I know we're going to have a lot of people tapping in from our side that want to know, that want to see what's going on, that want to know also what they can expect. So from an ARC perspective, is there anything that you guys have kind of had eyes on, any even industries or different businesses, services, products, anything that you're kind of looking to tap into as time continues to go?
Yeah. So, right now we're in a bear market in crypto, and this is when you really see the ones that are going to make it, right, in crypto, because there's a lot of shady, dApps or decentralized apps that come out during the bull market, because everything goes up and to the right. I mean, you can throw a dart at the wall and write a whole bunch of crypto names and it'll go up by 10x, right? And so, but you really know which ones are going to be the ones that are going to be around when things are being built during the bear market. And we've been building like crazy, and we've got a couple of things that are coming up. One is we've got something called a managed vault. And essentially what that is, it's like a fund on the blockchain where we don't actually even take custody of anybody's money. We don't, and essentially when you deposit that money in, you get cryptos in exchange that represent the value of your shares inside of this managed vault, and it's all on chain. And so you deposit that money and we're able to manage that money, but we cannot take that money out. And there's an accounting of it all right there. It's fully transparent. You can see every single move. You can see all of the other wallets that are connected to this managed vault. And I think this is going to be huge because, I was able to basically turn 15,000, and then I dollar cost averaged in about another 150 to 160 over 2 years into about $2.5 million. And so, but not everybody had that dedication and real understanding of how to get there. So now you have the ability to have the pros handle it without ever losing custody, right? And that's going to be a big thing. And we are constantly talking about the managed vault so that people know, okay, here's what's happening. In fact, you even need to test out to make sure that you know what you're investing in. So that's one of the really cool things that we have that we've been working on over the last year. And it's really starting to gain some traction here because we're earning lots of fees. We're earning lots and lots of fees by being the bank. And now we're able to help everybody kind of get on this trajectory, even if you're a student. If you're like, man, I don't have time for this, that's okay. There's an option for you, right? The other thing too is we're now tokenizing real estate. And we've tokenized a few properties down here in Panama where I live. And that really to me is interesting because again, that now we're really starting to show that crypto's growing up. And, we've got all sorts of things where, let's say you tomorrow, you're like, man, I only got $100 a month to spend, but I don't want to spend it on crypto because it's too volatile. Well, now you can literally buy real estate on the blockchain, and that real estate appreciates. Your rent gets airdropped to your wallet. You can borrow against your crypto asset, your crypto real estate in the click of a button. You don't need to go do a credit check. You don't need to do all these things that, traditional real estate had going for it before that, completely was, horrifying to go through as a home buyer, right? And you can basically crowdfund with your peers. And this is something that we're really, really excited about. It's not going to be as high growth as our crypto stuff, but definitely a place, and we've got the marketplace already built out, a place where you can go and you can start investing in real estate with just $100. You don't need to be a multimillionaire or stellar credit or any of that. You can now start buying into real estate and getting residual income from that, which is something that I think is really exciting. And those are the two things that we're really working on right now outside of education.
I feel like that's a given. No matter how you do it, no matter what happens, that's amazing. No, you just got me excited. That's because a common theme that's been across a lot of my more recent episodes too has been real estate in some capacity, whether it be flipping, investing, Airbnb, and everything like that. So the real estate really will play a portion in its own once it's debuted. Like this will all still be under the umbrella of education, but essentially everything we'll have is, the DeFi will be here, real estate will be here, whatever else y'all decide to kind of add. And I love that, man. It's something that I'm slowly but surely starting to learn about the podcast. Only took me 4 years to realize this, is that there's an option for everyone out there. And I love that, because you could hear this and like you said, could just the numbers could intimidate you, or all the time that you heard about real estate, you just knew that you had to have a boatload of money, or at least you thought that way. But now you can do this. You can borrow against that, or maybe you were worried about the credit, or maybe you were worried about always having to look at it or have the time for it. There's an option for everything. And I love how it's just continuing to adjust, adapt. But like I said, it really makes me also think about that regulation term, just that things are changing, things are happening, stuff is gonna, to think that you can stay in the same just boat or the same lane for the entire trajectory of your business ownership or entrepreneurial career, it's just not gonna be that. The world doesn't even really stay together. So to hear that things are gonna be differentiated, to hear that some people can get the DeFi education, people can get the real estate education, people can just get education in general, I love every bit of that. So now, obviously, we're going to have some people that want to tap in with you, that want to find you, that want to get educated ASAP because they want to get on the blockchain. They want to start these smart contracts. They want to get that thumb drive, whatever they need. But before we get into that, do you feel like there's anything that we have not touched on? Whoa. Actually, I have one question I want to ask because I'm very interested to see your perspective on it. When it comes to the US dollar right now, what does that look like? What does the future of the dollar look like? Should people be nervous that it's been discontinued as a currency, or people are not backing it as a currency in certain places, trying to be specific? But should that raise any eyebrows when it comes to the US dollar? Is cash going to just be null and void? Is it just going to stop one day? And obviously, we're not looking for all the answers to hold you to we're putting the spotlight on you right now. Whatever you say, Gven, this is what we're believing to be true. But as someone in this space, as someone who has been in this space for quite some time, when it comes to that, what's your opinion on the trajectory of where the dollar will be?
I mean, I think everything's going to be okay. Just kidding. No, it's not going to be okay. And they've been telling us that it's not going to be okay since the Central Bank of the United States of America has been out. And why? Because they inflate our money every single year. They've never said like, oh, we're going to deflate it and make it worth more and back it. Every single year, they find a way to make it serve them and not us. Right. And so they can print as much as they want. And, they've used it as a tool to really punish other countries, and other countries are getting sick of it. And so in my opinion, I think, yes, the dollar is going to lose its reserve status. When? I don't know. If you take a look at history, other reserve currencies, the British pound, the French franc, the Spanish peso, there was always a blend between one world currency to another, right? So it wasn't like, oh, on this date, this is when we went to this as the world reserve currency, right? So we're seeing the emergence of the BRICS nations, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And all of these nations are coming together to basically create their own alliance. I think it's like the same as like the G20 or something like that, where they're going to have their own currency that allegedly is going to not be backed by gold, but something by gold. I can't remember what it is, what they're going to be doing with gold. But China's been buying a ton of gold over the last few years. They're the ones who have been buying the majority of it. The United States still holds the most amount of gold outside of any other country in the world, though. And that's like, I think it's like the top 5 countries that own gold don't even own as much as the United States outside of the United States, right? Top 5. So it's going to take some time, but it's certainly going to happen. And then I think that we're going to have kind of a third outlier, which is going to be crypto. And I think there's going to be countries that are like, yeah, we don't want to deal with BRICS because, the China monitoring every single thing that people do. United States, we don't want to deal with you because you guys have just oppressed, every country you go into. And we don't want to be in debt to you. So we're going to go with crypto, and we're just going to be like the neutral guys. And I really think that, you're going to see that really occur with like, let's say El Salvador, which has changed its reserve currency to Bitcoin, one of it, it's dollar and Bitcoin. And I really think that when Bitcoin goes up, I mean, El Salvador could be one of the wealthiest countries in the Americas just because of, price of Bitcoin going up so high. And they're just going to have money to do things, right? So I really think it's going to be kind of like a tripolar type of environment. And we're going to be able to choose, hey, do I want to go with the United States? Do I want to go with the BRICS? Or do I want to go with decentralized? And I think they're all going to have to compete for our business, which is really what I like. I want my government to compete for me, not the other way around, like me being some battery for, their matrix.
Woo, okay. Okay. You gave me some. Everything's gonna be okay. So I like the way you started, but no, that's good. I definitely do think putting the shoe on the other foot, it relinquishes that force or just that. No, if I don't want to mess with y'all, I don't have to. I can go over here. I can figure things out. Like you said, the possibilities, while they won't be endless, there'll be possibilities. And I think that's much more than what we were really getting, rather than just one option with multiple possibilities. No, now we have multiple options. So I think that's even better. So, okay, great for some, like I said, I had to ask that question, y'all, because there's just been so much circulating, so many things going on and going around, and they want you to believe this one day, they say this another day. It's hard. And even, with us, with still being able to make predictions and everything like that, like you said, there's no real timetable on it. There's no real being able to really say when or where. So I had somebody that just says that they feel like the idea of that might be dangerous. He said, if my money has that type of mobility, but what if I'm not as mobile? So I guess now we spoke to kind of the pros of a situation like that, of how it being divided and being able to choose would be okay. Do you feel like with the direction that we're moving in, what'll be kind of the cons, or what'll be some things that people need to be wary about or worry about when it comes to their money or how they're choosing to get it?
I mean, in my opinion, there is no con to a three, system, because you can, again, anytime you get to choose, anytime you have an option, in my opinion, it is really the way to go. The cons of, let's say, for instance, going with the US though, versus going with the BRICS nations, both of them want control. And it was funny. I was just on a run this morning, and I'm like, why the heck do they want so much control? Like, what, like tomorrow, I don't want to control you, man. I want you to express yourself to the maximum. I want you to be as free as possible. Given that, you follow the law, you're good to other people, you don't steal, right? Like, I want you to do the best that you can do. And I don't want to suppress you, right? I want you to be freaking magical, man. And these governments, and I've lived in Russia, I haven't lived in China, but I know a lot of friends who have. It's very tyrannical. United States is getting there. It's just kind of a little bit more free, but they want control of every single thing. Like, what is it? Like Nancy Pelosi, she can go and trade whatever the heck she wants, right? And doesn't have to tell anybody. She can do insider trading, which it's legal for them to do insider trading. And here they want to know every time we spend freaking $600 on PayPal. Give me a break. I mean, what kind of BS is that, right? So like the cons of staying in this is way more dangerous than the con of having something that at least we have an option where we can go and have a choice. But having no choice, that to me is the most dangerous thing. That's going, into fascist, communist type stuff that I am not a fan of. Like, I'm not a Republican or a Demopublican, right wing, left wing, same bird, right? I'm just like, dude, leave me alone. I'm not going to do anything. Yes, let's all chip into the community, but come on, man. Like, don't try to control me, because that's when, my claws come out. And that's kind of like my claws right now are, I'm teaching people DeFi to help bring this cause and liberate people from this oppressive system, because it is oppressive and we're not going to get very far. Just yesterday, I heard, they're trying to push the retirement age to 80. Who wants to work until 80 years old? Like, come on, you're dead by then. Really? 80? Come on. This is not cool. It's not cool. Like, let's help people out. Let's get them, let's be productive. You don't have to have all the control up here. Spread it out. The United States has always done way better when it's the middle class is big and not too many people on the top, not too many people on the bottom. And that's where I think we can go with this. And that's why when I say, like, this is going to be the biggest transfer of generational wealth, I really think that the middle class could really come back with this, and we'll have a choice.
And I love that, just because, I'd rather have a choice and maybe decide to stay the same than to have no choice and just, this is just be what it was. So another follow up now, it said, would tariff, tax, and trade be different with this type of system? Like, let's just say if everything was to kind of make this shift to, and I feel like I kind of know, maybe you may even know the answers to this, but I feel like with real estate being able to even touch this market, I feel like eventually a lot of things may have to adjust and adapt. But what will that look like for services like that, or for trade that's done, or for different taxes and things like that? How will adjustments be made, if any, when it comes to that, and still having to regulate those things?
Yeah, I mean, let's say for like right now, Visa and MasterCard are both working on interacting with the Ethereum blockchain directly. It might be the Polygon blockchain, which is built on Ethereum. But essentially, you can write smart contracts to where every single transaction that you do that interacts with a certain other smart contract. Let's say, for instance, you go and to whatever, Walmart, and you go buy some stuff there, and you use your crypto to buy it. Well, right there, they can charge your taxes right out of there, right? The cryptos you can receive, the tax can go straight to the government, which I'm not a big fan of, because I think we pay way too much to the government, especially in the United States. We have one of the highest tax rates in the world. And now that's usually for the smaller person, because the person way at the top, they have they have access to resources that you and I don't have, to basically pay no taxes. But you have to understand that there is ways for that to transpire using what are called smart contracts, and we do them every single day. Sometimes you buy a crypto and it already has a tax on it. It doesn't go to the government, but it goes back to like the community as a whole. So I'm not worried about that. And I'm not worried about the government. And to be quite honest with you, the governments need to reel in their spending and focus on, how do we really make this experience better for our citizens? Because again, like I live in Panama City, Panama. I'm over the United States right now because it does not treat me well. As a customer, I am dissatisfied. And that's why I've left, right? Because I can go, I don't know if you ever heard of the nomad capitalist, but I can go where I am treated best. And I feel like I am treated better here, tax wise, all this stuff, business wise, regulatory wise, than I do in the United States, that really doesn't care. I don't even know. They don't, allegedly, they don't want people coming in, but they keep letting them in. Right. And it's kind of like, I don't get it. I don't resonate with it. And I'm just kind of over their spending. I'm over these people who are inferior to us in terms of their decision making, because they can't even live within their means. And they just can't make it happen. So I'm just done. So I'm not going to participate in that system anymore.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely not worried about the government. The government needs to be worried about ARC and all the education and what they're putting out to people. So no, I love every bit of that. So now, like I said, I feel like Gven, I got to thank you just because of the value, just of what you've been able to provide today, what you've been able to clear up today, but what you've also been able to educate us on and have us really look forward to, just the outlook, just that approach that we could take even with this education. Because like you spoke about, there are other people in this space just the same. There are people all around the world doing this just the same. So it's a matter of where we get in and where we fit in. But I feel like to really just be able to make that conscious decision that we want change, that we don't want to just fall in line with the system just because they tell us to, that there is a way to oppose this. There is a way to be an advocate for something else. So now, for the people out there, I have a lot of interaction between Instagram. I know we're going to have a lot of interaction just with this episode and just with people knowing, because I talk to so many people in the cryptocurrency space. Could you just tell us the best places to get in contact with you, find out about the website, social media, anything like that? Pretty much, if somebody wants to reach you or figure out what ARC is doing and what they have going on, give us everything you got in that regard.
Yeah. So if you head over to Gven Sariol, so GVENSARIOL.arc, on Instagram or YouTube. That's where you can follow me. And, Instagram is more short term or short form. YouTube will be kind of my longer videos. But yeah, I those are the places that you can follow me there. And then you could also head over to my website, arcrypto.io, arcrypto.io. And there's lots of resources there that you can learn a little bit more about how you can get involved with the ARC and, start learning this new system, because it's coming, whether we like it or not.
Come on, y'all. It's inevitable. Decentralized, though. I feel like there have been so much that was debuted today, from smart contracts to blockchain to currency to everything. I feel like there was some terminology that if you didn't know before, you've been educated on, or you have some research to do. So I feel like in a sense, this episode was definitely a call to action too, a call to action to eliminate those ATM fees, eliminate all that processing and loaning and lending of your own money, and really just become in control. And if it's more so not even making the conscious decision to become in control, it's education. It's knowing what's going on around you. Because like we said, a lot of these articles can be confusing. They throw a bunch of words at you, and before you know it, you can scroll through the whole thing and don't even really know what you read. Then you get on the news, these headlines are so dramatized, and they want to invoke fear in you and things like that, that what they're saying, you don't even realize it until you really start to break it down, until you do your own research. But so many changes and so many regulations are happening. Whether we see it or whether we don't, it's happening. It's being voted on. It's going to continue to be voted on. And it's being even voted on by people who they're not necessarily in our position. So of course they don't want to look out for us. Of course they don't want us to benefit from it the best way. They want to continue to remain at that top. So Gven, obviously I have to continue to thank you and just applaud you and ARC for everything that y'all are doing just in the space that y'all are in. One, it's not easy to educate yourself. So to be able to educate others, to be able to put that mantra and that message out there for everyone else and not really just gatekeep, I'm always just for that. I'm always just in support of that, and I'm always thankful for that, because it's needed. And who's to know, as you add more students to the community, as you bring more people in, what change this is going to be. Like you said, that generational wealth, because I'm sure just in the time from 2020 till now, and from 2018, even before then, you've been able to change lives. The testimonials are probably unmatched, and people are genuinely just happy. People are figuring things out. People are educating, but essentially they're spreading that wealth and that knowledge to everyone else. So here over at Down to Business, you definitely have our full back and our full support. Anything that we can do, please never hesitate to let us know. But to everyone else, obviously, like I said, check out the website, check out the content, do some research of your own. Look up a term maybe that you heard on this episode that you may not know. Write something down. Let's start to really take control of our own destiny, of our own self, so that way when it hits, when it happens, when it comes to that inevitable moment, you're prepared for it, you're ready for it, you already know what's going on. You may even be a step ahead of the game because you started when you heard this episode. So to everybody out there who continuously taps in, to everybody out there who makes this happen, I love y'all. I thank y'all. This has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner.